You know how people say you just know when something's wrong? That deep gut feeling that something is off, even if everything on the surface looks fine? I ignored mine for years. After 25 years of marriage, I thought I knew my husband better than anyone. We had built a life together, 2 kids, a house, the kind of love that felt solid, like a foundation that couldn't be shaken. He still kissed me on the forehead before work. He still asked if I wanted tea at night. From the outside, nothing had changed, but inside, I had started to feel like a guest in my own marriage. Conversations felt rehearsed, like we were actors in a play we had performed too many times. I'd ask about his day, and he'd give me the same generic answers. Work was fine, nothing new. You? I told myself I was overthinking. We were just comfortable. That's what happens after 2 decades, right? Then one night, everything changed. I was folding laundry in our bedroom when his phone lit up on the nightstand. It was late and he was in the shower. I had no reason to suspect anything, but when I glanced over, I saw the message. I miss you. Can't wait to see you again. At first, my brain refused to process it. Maybe it was a friend. Maybe it was a joke. Maybe, but then before I could stop myself, I picked up the phone and scrolled. There it was, evidence, conversations filled with things he had never said to me, pictures, hotel reservations. He had been lying to me. I don't know how long I sat there staring at that screen, my hands shaking, my whole body felt numb. When he came out of the shower, towel wrapped around his waist, he saw my face and immediately knew. He didn't deny it, he just sighed, like he was relieved. That hurt the most, not the betrayal, not the lies, his relief. Like he had been waiting for this moment. I asked him why, and do you know what he said? I don't know. Not I'm sorry, not I made a mistake, just I don't know. I packed a bag that night, took my car keys. I didn't know where I was going. I just had to go. I drove for hours, ending up at a cheap motel on the edge of town. I sat on the stiff bed, staring at the ugly floral wallpaper and thought, what now? For 25 years, I had been a wife, a mother, a partner. But who was I outside of that? The days that followed were a blur. He tried to call. The kids were confused. Friends whispered. Some said, maybe you can work through it. Others asked, are you sure you want to throw away 25 years? Throw away? Like it was my choice? I had choices, though. That was the terrifying part. Stay, forgive, try to fix something irreparably broken, or walk away and start over, alone, at 50? I chose myself. It wasn't easy. The first time I slept alone in an unfamiliar apartment, I cried. The first time I went grocery shopping and realised I didn't have to buy his favourite snacks, I cried. The first time I signed divorce papers, my hands shook so hard I could barely hold the pen. But little by little, something unexpected happened. I started laughing again. Not the polite, half-hearted chuckles I had gotten used to, but real, deep belly laughs. I started going out for coffee just because I wanted to, not because I needed to grab something for the house. I took a painting class. I was terrible at it, but I loved every second. I booked a solo trip to Italy, a place I had always dreamed of visiting, and when I stood in front of the Colosseum, alone but completely at peace, I realised I wasn't lost. I was free. So, here's what I learned. Sometimes we hold on to things just because they're familiar. We tell ourselves it's too late to start over, that the past defines us, that our worth is tied to someone else's love. But that's not true. I thought my world had ended when I saw that text message, but really that was the moment my new life began. And maybe, just maybe, it's the best thing that ever happened to me. You ever wake up one day and realise you don't even recognise your own life? That was me, at 50 years old. I had spent decades building a life that looked perfect from the outside. A stable marriage, 2 grown kids, a home filled with framed pictures and carefully curated furniture. I had checked all the boxes, did all the right things, and yet I felt empty. For years, I ignored it, pushed it down, told myself I was just being ungrateful. I had a good life, a predictable one, a safe one. But safe doesn't always mean happy. The realization hit me on an ordinary Tuesday morning. My husband was drinking coffee, reading the news on his phone. I was making toast, and I looked at him, the man I had spent half my life with, and I felt nothing. Not anger, not love, just a quiet, heavy nothingness. And I knew in that moment I couldn't do it anymore. I didn't have a dramatic reason to leave. There was no affair, no explosive fight. Just the simple, painful truth. I had spent so long being who everyone needed me to be. I had forgotten how to be myself. So I made the hardest decision of my life. I packed a suitcase. He didn't believe me at first. "You're just going through something," he said. "Take a trip, clear your head." But this wasn't a phase. This was the moment I chose me. I left with no grand plan. Just a small apartment in a city I had always loved from a distance and enough money to get by. The first night alone, I sat on my tiny mattress, surrounded by unpacked boxes, and cried until my chest ached. I questioned everything. Had I made a mistake? Was I throwing away my life for some foolish dream of finding myself? Starting over at 50 wasn't glamorous. The first time I walked into a restaurant alone, I felt exposed, like everyone knew I was newly single. Like they could see the gap where my old life used to be. The first time I had to fix something in my apartment, something my husband would have handled, I nearly called him out of habit. But little by little, something shifted. I started drinking coffee slowly instead of rushing through it. I took long walks with no destination. I rediscovered music I used to love. I enrolled in a painting class, even though I had never painted in my life. The first time I smeared colour onto a blank canvas, something inside me clicked. And then I booked a solo trip. Paris, a city I had always dreamed of visiting but never did because it was never the right time. One evening, I sat outside a tiny cafe with a glass of wine, watching the world move around me. And for the first time in years, I felt light. Not because I had everything figured out, not because life was suddenly easy, but because I was finally living for myself. Do I miss my old life? Sometimes. There are moments of loneliness, moments where I wonder what would have happened if I had just stayed. But then I remind myself, staying would have been easier. But leaving, that was brave. And I think sometimes the bravest thing you can do is choose yourself. You ever wake up one day and realize your life is predictable? Not bad, just the same. Same coffee, same routine, same shows, same conversations. I was 50 when it hit me. I couldn't remember the last time I did something new. Not something responsible, like switching insurance plans or trying a new laundry detergent. I mean, something that made me feel alive. So I decided to fix that. I was going to learn something completely outside my comfort zone. Something exciting. Something fresh. Which is how I ended up in a beginner's salsa dance class, even though I have the coordination of a baby giraffe on roller skates. Let me tell you, if you want to feel truly humbled, take a dance class at 50 when you haven't attempted anything rhythmic since your cousin's wedding in 2004. The first class was, let's just say, not great. I walked in feeling brave, strong, empowered. 5 minutes later, I was stepping on people's feet, spinning in the wrong direction, and deeply regretting my shoe choice. The instructor, a man named Alejandro, with the confidence of a telenovela star, kept saying, "Feel the music, let it guide you." Sir, the only thing guiding me at that moment was sheer panic, but I stuck with it. Week 2, I managed to make it through half a song without injuring anyone. Progress. Week 3, I started enjoying it. By week 5, something unexpected happened. I wasn't just learning to dance, I was learning to let go. For years, I had avoided things I wasn't good at because, well, I was afraid of looking ridiculous. I had spent so much time being careful, being competent, being in control. But here in this tiny dance studio, I was free to be bad at something, to laugh at myself, to try. And that felt incredible. Dancing became my thing, not because I was great at it, but because I loved how it made me feel. One night after class, I stopped by a cafe. Normally I would order my usual and scroll through my phone. But that night, I sat outside, watched people walk by, enjoyed my own company, and I realised this whole time I hadn't just been learning to dance, I had been learning to live again. So if you're stuck in a routine, wondering if it's too late to try something new, try anyway, even if you stumble, even if you're terrible at first, because sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself. I never thought I'd be the kind of woman who books a solo trip. You know the type. The fearless, adventurous, backpack-wearing women who throw themselves into the world like a scene from Eat, Pray, Love. Nope, that wasn't me. For 30 years, my vacations had always been with family. or with my husband, or planned around someone else's schedule, someone else's preferences. But now, at 55, recently divorced, and with my kids grown and busy with their own lives, I had no one scheduled to work around but mine. The idea hit me one evening while I was mindlessly scrolling through social media. A travel blog popped up. Why every woman should take a solo trip at least once. I scoffed. Yeah, maybe when I was younger. Then I stopped. Why not now? And that's how 2 weeks later I found myself at the airport, holding a passport that hadn't been stamped in years, about to board a flight to Lisbon, alone. I won't lie. 5 minutes before boarding, I had a full-blown panic moment. What if I lose my luggage? What if I get lost? What if I end up in some Taken movie situation? Yes, I checked to make sure I had at least 2 contacts who could be my Liam Neeson in case of emergency. But then I exhaled. Because underneath the nerves, there was something else. Excitement. The first night in Lisbon was awkward. I didn't know what to do with myself. I kept looking around like, am I supposed to be talking to someone? Eating alone at a restaurant felt like some kind of social test I was failing. I kept checking my phone, pretending to be deeply engaged in something important. But by day 3, something changed. I stopped caring if people saw me eating alone. I enjoyed the silence, the freedom to order exactly what I wanted without compromise. I wandered through tiny cobblestone streets without a plan, letting curiosity, not a schedule, guide me. One afternoon, I found this little bookshop tucked between 2 cafes. I stepped inside and got lost in the smell of old paper and the soft murmur of voices speaking Portuguese. For the first time in years, I wasn't rushing. I wasn't accommodating anyone. I was just existing. By the end of the trip, something clicked. This wasn't just about traveling alone, it was about proving to myself that I could, that I wasn't too old to try new things, that I didn't need permission to enjoy my own company. And the most surprising part, I liked being with myself. So, to any woman out there hesitating to do something just because she's never done it before, go, book the trip, eat the meal, walk into the unknown. Because sometimes the best companion you could ever travel with is yourself.